I walked into a doctor's office. 5 years later, I escaped. PT-na. Nichole sliced into the back of my neck with precision. She made quick work of the surgery, but the pain was blinding. I willed my body to stay rigid, only allowing my hands to grip a wad of the sheet beneath me. My fists balled around the fabric so tightly that even with the barrier, my fingernails pressed through and dug into the skin of my palms. I was sweating as if I had been doing sprints. Nichole made no sound other than her steady, even breathing, and one hand pressed on my neck, the other cutting into it. I thought I would black out from the searing agony, but before I could, she pulled out the small, pill-like device, tossed it on the bed in front of my face. "I'm going to stitch this up, and then we have to move." "Can you handle that?" she asked, a brisk clip to her voice. I started to nod, and she grabbed my head. "You still can't move, Liz," I said. "Yes, sorry, yes, I can handle it." "I'm okay." I felt the burn and pulling of the needle sewing the wound she had made. It was unpleasant but bearable. Then there was a crinkle of paper, a ripping sound, and she placed a bandage over the whole thing. Then a quick beeping started to go off from somewhere deep inside her bag. Her head snapped toward the sound. "That's them. They know it's out. We have to go. Now!" She jumped from the bed, launching herself toward the door to look through the peephole. She rushed back to me as I was carefully maneuvering myself back into a sitting position on the bed. She snatched my hand and heaved me onto my feet. She threw everything back into her bag, zipped it, and went to open the door. "When I open the door, no matter what is out there, if anything, do not stop. Go to your left, down the stairs at the end, all the way to the ground floor. From there, make a right. You will see a maroon minivan. Go to the passenger side and open the door. Get in, do not look back, do not ask questions." Her words came at me like rapid fire. It was difficult to keep track of her words, but I understood. She opened the door. Nothing greeted us but the sunlight and musty smell of the building. I walked out in front of her, followed her directions. When I made it down the steps, I heard a man's voice shout from somewhere above me. Nichole was right behind me and shoved me in the back, urging me to keep moving forward. I saw the minivan, ran to the passenger side, yanked open the sliding door, and hopped in the seat. Nichole got in the passenger seat, which confused me until I saw a man sitting in the driver's seat, hands wrapped around the steering wheel and a stricken look on his young face. He could not have been more than 20 years old. I started to ask who the hell this kid was when both doors closed and Nichole shouted at the boy, "Gio." The minivan did not look like much, but it tore out of that parking lot like it was in the Indy 500. I could not see out of the back windows since they had all been covered. I could only see the road stretching out ahead of us. Buildings, stores, houses, trees, and fields emerged on the horizon on either side and disappeared as we passed. We barreled down the road for over an hour before any of us could find the courage to speak. The driver glanced over to Nichole, then, using the rearview mirror, at me, then dutifully back to the road. "Do you think we put enough distance between us now, Nikki?" he asked with a voice just as childlike as his face. You could see he was stressed almost to his breaking point. Nichole responded without looking at him. She simply said, "No." The two in front must have known where they were going because there was no GPS in sight, and no one was giving or asking for directions. Left turn down a side road, right turn by an old barn. We spent hours moving through back streets and emerging back onto highways, then back off again. No one turned on the radio. No one spoke after Nichole's reply. The engine, the passing cars, and the tires on the road were all I could hear. I sat stiff in the seat, my stomach doing backflips and my heart drumming in my chest. Each time I felt the adrenaline wane even slightly, Nichole would look out the window, or there would be a siren, a car honking, and it would spike, redoubling my anxious state. The sun set and then rose again, and still we drove. At some point, my body must have given out. I woke up abruptly, having no memory of falling asleep or even getting tired. The slow crunch of gravel was like an alarm. I reached to rub my sore neck, forgetting about the stitches. As the pressure of my hand fell upon it, I winced and pulled my hand away quickly. Blood had soaked through the bandage. I wiped my hand clean with the hem of my shirt. The sky was smoldering behind the orange glow of the sun just visible on the horizon. There were green rolling hills in the distance, and a small and abandoned-looking house just ahead. The faded blue paint on its exterior was cracked and peeling. The white front porch spanned the width of the house's front, the front steps in alignment with the front door. The yard was lush and overgrown. A patch of sunflowers was collapsing in upon itself to the right of the porch. Irises and daffodils were dotted throughout the yard. The whole place felt lonely yet friendly, like a childhood home that sat waiting for you to come back to it. The boy put the minivan in park. His hands were shaking badly as he dried the sweat from his palms onto the legs of his jeans. We both looked to Nichole for some sign of direction. She was still for another minute or so, listening, waiting, watching. Then she took a deep breath and opened the car door. She motioned for the boy to do the same but told me to wait. They walked to the front door of the house. Nichole took out a key, unlocked the door, and walked inside, closely followed by the boy. They were inside for a few minutes while I waited on pins and needles to know our next moves. I was an exposed nerve, growing more restless and fretful as I watched the open doorway until Nichole came back out. She stood on the top porch step and waved for me to join her. My legs ached as I got out of the van and walked awkwardly inside the house. She did not wait for me. She disappeared into one of the rooms as I entered. The boy was nowhere in sight. They both must have felt safe enough here to leave me unattended. I felt exposed. The front door was still hanging wide open, so I closed it and turned the lock, hearing the moderately comforting click of the bolt securing into place. I wandered around the house, giving myself the tour no one else felt was necessary. It was fully furnished. I expected it to look as forsaken on the inside as it did on the outside, but it was. The living room was warm and bright. There was a soft, plush gray couch along one wall, a scratched yet spotless coffee table in front of it. There were pictures hung on the walls, a bookshelf in the corner, and a coat rack near the front door. Nothing was dusty. It smelled clean and fresh. The next room was a kitchen, just as immaculate as the living room. A hall opened to the left, and there were 2 doors on the left and 1 on the right. On the far right wall of the kitchen was another door. It opened onto a set of stairs leading down into a finished basement that someone had converted into a mother-in-law suite, complete with kitchenette and bathroom. I walked back upstairs, feeling queasy. It could have been nerves, hunger, or the imperceptible strangeness of this place. All of the furniture looked to have been pulled straight from the early 1990s. Some walls were adorned with faded and out-of-style floral wallpaper. Others had wood paneling. It was as if walking through the entry of that house sent you back in time. While the exterior aged with the world beyond, the inside stood as a perfectly preserved monument. It was cozy, even charming, but the contrast of its exterior made me ill at ease. Where am I? I was eager for more information, but I had yet to press for any. We had been quiet for so long, it felt as if talking would be unlucky somehow. I had gotten so used to the quiet that the sound of the front door felt like a cannon blast in my ears. I held my breath as I rushed back down the hall, searching for Nichole. She materialized from the dark end of the hall, held a finger to her lips, and whispered, "The chimera found us."